Hello everyone, my name is Noland and I am the co-author on the second edition of Sandy Ciccarelli Psychology. I'm excited to hear that you are considering the text for use in your classes. Thank you for doing so. I know it might be a tad biased, but I think this is a great book. I'm sure your local rep will do a wonderful job walking you through the text, the materials, and all the resources that are associated with the text, but I thought you might want to hear a little bit from someone who has spent many hours with these materials. What many people don't realize is that I was an adopter and user of Ciccarelli first edition before I was ever asked to be on the author team for the second edition. As such, I can share with you a little bit about what originally caught my eye with psychology and why I'm even now more excited than ever to be associated with this book. First and foremost, I was really struck by the focus on assessment and the tie-in to the APA recommended learning outcomes for undergraduates in psychology. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first text that started with those APA learning outcomes and built from there. All the other texts have been retrofitted. At our institution, as I'm sure it is all over the country, it seems we're continually being asked to not only provide learning outcomes for our majors, but also for our specific courses and be able to effectively track that we are assessing on those learning outcomes as well. This book and other materials gives you a way to do that in a fairly efficient manner. The other first impression that was really struck me with this text was the focus on the student and the learner-centered approach that Sandy takes. I was really impressed by the way she's able to establish a dialogue with the students, and that students seem to really enjoy reading this book. Just as an example, I had two senior students in my lab that were getting ready to take their senior exit exam, which is required for graduation. Both of them asked me about a resource that they could use to prep for the exam, because it had been a while since they had intro. This was before anyone knew I was working on second edition, and I suggested they use the first edition text. Both the students took the exam, they did very well, and independently, when they returned the books, they told me that they wished they had had Sandy's book when they took intro. I think that's a great testament to the readability and how students seem to really enjoy this text. Another appealing aspect of this book for me was the graphics. A book with a fish on it, yeah, that works. And as good as the graphics were in first edition, they have been greatly improved for second edition. The other thing I really like is the simulations and the media. I like that I can use the simulations and media in class for lecture, and students can use those very same resources when they are prepping for their exams, when they are studying the material and trying to understand the material themselves. The test gen software is easy to use. Great test bank, and if I'm not mistaken, the only test bank I've ever seen that not only includes the rationale for the correct answer, but also the rationale for the strongest distractor, or that question that students are likely to choose if they don't get the correct answer. This is an awesome teaching tool, and especially for new instructors. So, related to the test bank, with the second edition, you'll have the option to use a MyTest, which is a web-based application for creating your exams, and which might be very useful for those of you that, like me, sometimes find yourself trying to prep an exam away from the single computer that you had the test bank software installed on. The instructor's resource manual for the first edition was good, but to be quite honest, it wasn't the easiest resource to navigate. With your second edition resource manual, you have something that's been completely revamped. It is available in both, or has information available in both topic, outline, and by content, and everything is hyperlinked, so it's easy to get to all the resources. And all the resources that are tied in have been identified by psychology instructors as being the best available from the entire Pearson Media Library, not just the media library that was associated with the first edition. Lastly, I was really impressed by the ability to tie in the material from the text with my psych lab. Between the chapter study plans, the pre and post test, the media library, the ebook that you can annotate and highlight, not only are you encouraging your student to engage in the material, but you're encouraging them to spend time with the material before they come to class. You have a means for both summative assessment or formative assessment, whichever works best for you in your class situation, and you can get information about how your students are doing before they come to class and before the actual exam over the material. Okay, enough rambling. I'm sorry, I can get a little carried away at times. With regard to my involvement with second edition, I was primarily responsible for the end of section concept maps and for coordinating the review and revision of the supplements. If you run across anything in the text, the supplements, or other resources that you want to comment on, or if you have questions about, or if you're just curious about how I'm personally using Ciccarelli second edition, my Psych Lab, the clickers, incorporating the clicker questions into the interactive PowerPoints, which are awesome, or anything else, my email address is noland.white@gcsu.edu. I hope you have a great session, and again, on behalf of Sandy and myself, thank you again for considering this text.